Back then, when your team won a championship, especially on your home field or court, the fans would just storm the field or the court.
That's going to do it. That's going to do it. Torres gets it. The Yankees win their 21st World Series.
In this video, I'm going to share 3 things that I learned about Reggie Jackson. Welcome to the Dr. J Talks documentary review. Today we're going to review a documentary that came out in March 2023 about historical figure Reggie Jackson, and it's simply titled Reggie. I'm going to share 3 things that I learned from that documentary, so make sure you stick around. Also, make sure you watch this video all the way through, because somewhere along this video I have embedded a trivia question. Put your answer in the comments below. Why am I doing this review on Reggie Jackson? Number one, great documentary, very well put together from a cinematic point of view, but also Reggie Jackson's a figure from back in the day when I was a kid. I have these flashbulb memories of him. I don't remember him. I wasn't born actually when he played for the Oakland A's, but I remember him as a kid playing for the New York Yankees, and I also remember that candy bar, even though I was allergic to nuts back then. See, I was an OG with the nut allergy. Now everybody's got him. Reggie Jackson is one of those figures who you've heard of the name, Hall of Famer, 5-time World Series champion. He hasn't been out there on the ESPNs or a lot on the shows. He hasn't been a commentator or working for one of those networks. So when I saw this documentary pop up through Prime, it took me down memory lane. And just being a kid, knowing his name, knowing Reggie Jackson's a big star, but not old enough to really understand what he really went through and what he shared. Now, right off the bat, when you look at this documentary, one of the things that I noticed, it really is about social commentary as compared to just a recap of what he did in his career. As these years go by, all these documentaries, we can really see what these people went through, how they came up, how they became to be who they were, and that was the case here with Reggie. So there were so many things that I learned about Reggie the man, what he went through in the 1960s and 70s, and I think that was the main topic and the main point of the documentary, was to highlight those events, and for Reggie, for the first time, I believe, really share his thoughts. He's always been outspoken, but really share his thoughts and emotions of what he was going through. So I thought that's what was powerful. Not just the home runs and hitting the transformer in 1971 and the All-Star game, but really what was young Reggie thinking about? How was he moving? Where was his psyche at coming up through the minor leagues? That's why I like this documentary better than, I believe it was the MLB Network that in 2015 or 16, they had come out with a documentary called The Making of Mr. October, which I enjoyed as well, but I feel like that one was more of just a recap of his athletic career, where Reggie really was about Reggie, not Mr. October, not the MVP, not the home run slugger. Another thing that stood out was just about Reggie Jackson's personality. We always knew he had a kind of an adversarial relationship with the press. He was prickly. Some would call him cocky. Others would call him arrogant, almost in that Muhammad Ali type of mode. He made comments like, "I'm the straw that stirs the drink" in New York, and that blew up in the newspapers.
No, really, you stick around the game, you listen to an old veteran like me, I'll show you how to talk on the air, boy. Yeah, talk, the TV. No, really, TV, cameras and going on and shit like that. Huh? I'm telling you, man, I'll show you how to make a living with this stuff. I'll show you how to have the people eating right out of here.
He makes a comment at the beginning of the documentary where he says, this weaved in, the 60s and the civil rights movement and into the 70s, those turbulent times in our country. So you really got to understand and see Reggie's personal thoughts and what he was going through during those times. He was a minor leaguer in Birmingham, Alabama, and I thought this was great storytelling. They went back to Birmingham and they're sitting in the dugout, Reggie and 3 of his white teammates. Just having a conversation. The teammates begin to tell a story about how where they stayed at, the landlady came to them and said Reggie cannot stay there. Even though the 4 of them had room together, they were going to get evicted if Reggie did not leave because he was black. They also told the story about how on bus rides they would have to go into restaurants and get Reggie's food and some of the other black players and bring it out to them. And Reggie really goes into the emotions of the humiliation that came with that. So again, that's where this documentary really touches the emotional part, touches the historical part. And that was just a great bit of storytelling, because instead of Reggie telling those stories, they had his white teammates tell those stories. And then you even got to see how it pained them to have to live through that time as well. Another painful moment is that he goes to Atlanta to meet with Hank Aaron. And how what he had to go through on his chase to break Babe Ruth's record, and the death threats and all the name calling, of course, that comes with that. But the documentary wasn't all dark and all bad news. There was a lot of interesting things that I didn't know about Reggie Jackson as well. I didn't know his father, Martinez Jackson, actually played in the minor leagues for the Newark Eagles. I didn't know that. So, of course, there's where Reggie probably got his talent from. Also, what was interesting is that his father was also a tailor and he bootlegged whiskey. So for the young folks, a lot of players in the major leagues or otherwise, they had to get jobs in the off season. It wasn't like today with these 8-figure, 9-figure contracts. So now it's time for that trivia question. Put your answer in the comments. Let's see if you can get it. Here's fun fact number 2 that I learned about Reggie Jackson. In 1970, he was making $20,000 a year playing for the Oakland A's. That's $157,000 in 2023 currency. Now, eventually, with the Yankees, he got his $3 million. But can you imagine that? A superstar making $157,000. I mean, he was on all types of commercials. He was on Sports Illustrated. Sport magazine. He even crossed over and was on Time magazine. This was not just your average ball player. He was a superstar making the equivalent of $157,000 in today's dollars. I didn't know that in 1975, Reggie led the league in home runs, and then the owner cut his salary by $2,500. Another fact that I learned was that how he got the name Mr. October wasn't how you think. He actually got that name from Thurman Munson. After one of the games, the reporters in the locker room, they're looking to talk to players. I think Herman Munson, he was hurt and just wanted to get some rehab and some ice. And he just said, I'll just go over there and talk to Mr. October. And the name stuck. Also, some funny and interesting observations just about how things have changed over time. Back then, ball players actually wore glasses. They actually wore glasses while they were playing. There's a lot of pitchers and there's a lot of ball players, Reggie included, that wore glasses while they played their sport. Also, another interesting observation, just how open the world was. Back then, when your team won a championship, especially on your home field or court, the fans would just storm the field or the court.
Let's do it. That's going to do it. Torres gets it. The Yankees win their 21st World Series. They've traced them season-long for you. The ups and downs, emotional and on the playing field. The way they came from behind to beat the Red Sox and the Birds. The way they came from behind to beat the Royals. And now this.
So those who are old enough to remember or just love baseball and love sports and are historians, we know about Reggie Jackson. He was league MVP in 1973, the World Series MVP in 73 and 77, the first player, I believe, to win 5 World Series rings. That mammoth shot in 1971, the All-Star game in Detroit, where he hit it up off Doc Ellis and hit the transformer. And then also those 3 home runs in Game 6 of the 77 World Series, which really stamped him as Mr. October. This documentary, it really gets a thumbs up. Rotten Tomatoes, the audience gave it 90%, and it's well deserved. He really is an open book about what he felt during the things that he went through. And it was just an excellent job of storytelling. So check that out. Please like and subscribe. Put your thoughts below in the comments. Are there any other documentaries you want me to review? I love history, and I know there's a lot of you out there like this. I like my movies and I like my TV shows, but I like learning about actual people and what they really went through. And that's part of what this channel's about. So it's good for people my age to go down memory lane and remember some old sports heroes. But also for the younger sports fans, it's always good to go back and learn what happened before. Go back out and check this documentary. Very well done. Dr. J Talks.